And welcome back for part 2. So, the Swedish tech tree. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. People have been waiting for this one for a long time, haven't they? They've been really wanting this. Now, the Swedish tech tree is going to be an amalgamation of a few different Scandinavian tech trees, really. So there's going to be some different... There's going to be some interesting vehicles. It's not all going to be Swedish, but the majority of them are. So, reserve, we have the STRV. Now, I'm going to make this mistake a lot, so feel free to get annoyed already. M31. Interwar, sorry. Bulky, ugly, not great. It's got the 37mm cannon in it though, so it's got a good amount of punch to it. Christie's suspension, that is, isn't it? Is that Christie's suspension? Am I doing that wrong? The relief spring suspension, blah blah blah. Suspension decent, but you can see this is a very early sort of prototype. It's got a water-cooled gun in the front, as you can see. 6.5mm machine gun. Water-cooled, as you can see by the massive jackets around it. The 37mm has actually got some fairly decent punch to it. 59mm and 51mm. Nice little starting tank. You can see that the engine deck is raised here. So a raised engine deck, which means you're going to get less depression over the back. Yeah, very cool little first tank. The STRV 38. Now, I'm not hugely knowledgeable on Swedish tanks, so I will make mistakes here and there, so do not be afraid to shout at me in the comments. So you can see evolution here. We've got different suspension on this one. So these early tanks, the Sweden did a lot of playing around and testing. 37mm cannon, of course. And instead of a water-cooled cannon, water-cooled machine gun, we've got the 8mm air-cooled machine gun instead. So, neat little tank. You can see very similar to sort of the Czechoslovakian, Russian sort of tanks of the time. It's got the resting point for the aerial there, I think it is. That looks like an aerial resting point. I'm trying to actually figure out what that is. And it's got a weird periscope thing on the top. Okay, some cool little weird bits and bobs on there. That's cool to look at. I'm sure I will have to have a bit of research on those. Armour. Not really anything special. Interwar tank, what do you expect? 3-man crew. The 37mm gun again, and again we can see same penetration. It's 37mm. Now a lot of these tanks are your sort of early interwar prototypes, so you get a lot of weird changes and cool little bits and bobs. So this is the FM42. This is your anti-air vehicle. Yeah, anti-air, I think. Pretty sure this is anti-air, isn't it? This is the anti-air line, isn't it? Yes, okay, so the anti-air. So, strangely enough, for an anti-air, we got a 20mm gun in it, not a 40mm gun, but obviously based off the same chassis as the first tank, the 32 or whatever it was, 42 even, or whatever it was. Little tiny anti-air, cool little tank. Oh, it does look like we're getting nice little berets for the Swedish commanders. That's cool. Gun shield, yeah, very basic little design. And the FM43/44, which is the tank destroyer variant. And this thing is kind of interesting because it's a recoilless rifle. Yes, you heard me right, recoilless rifle. Yeah. So 150mm gun. Oh boy. So 48mm of penetration on these shells. 150mm shell with how much TNT? With 5.8 kilograms of explosive mass in them. This thing is silly. Now, this is something you're going to see on a lot more tanks coming up, is this design system for suspension and bogey wheels. Might look familiar to you. Might look like a Panzer 34, 30, 35, 38T. 35, there we go. Of course, Czechoslovakian design, and the Swedish really... Wait, that's the wrong one, isn't it? 38T, that's what I wanted to look at. 38T, as we go along, yeah, there we go. The Czechoslovakian suspension system, the Swedish really loved it, and that's going to be something you're going to see in pretty much every Swedish tank for a long time coming. Let's just take this out for a test drive, because this is going to be a little meme machine. Obviously not a huge amount of penetration, but a huge amount of explosive mass in this gun. It's a silly gun, and it's going to be able to do damage to a lot of things. So, as you can see, we have got beautiful little berets for the Swedish tank crew. That is a very cool little looking uniform there. So, as you can see with the loading system of this, you obviously not going to be very comfortable as that loader there getting swung around and hit in the face by the exhaust port on there. But let's look at this T-34. So let's go whomp. A little bit short there. As you can tell, velocity of this is basically a slug. But for a 150mm gun, there is barely any recoil because it is a recoilless rifle. Let's have a little look at it outside. Let's try and actually hit this time. So, yeah, you can see that despite low amount of penetration, you're going to be able to pen things because you're going to pen the tops, just the explosive filler. It's just silly. Very cool little thing. This is going to be a very fun little meme machine. As I said, you're going to be actually able to damage pretty much any tank in the game with it. It's few actually hit it on the top. So yeah, cool. Premium STRV M39, which is this little beauty here. Sorry, excuse me. Again, a sort of, as you can see, basically a slightly updated version of one of the other tanks. Same gun, yada yada yada, just a cool little command variant. Nice little tank. As we move on, the IKV-72. Yep, tank destroyer. Nice mesh around the actual gun breech there. That's nice and safe. The thing I love about the Swedish vehicles is just their design ethos and design principle. They're very cool little vehicles. The commander and loader are in a very precarious position, obviously, so they're going to get taken out by machine gun fire very quickly. Armor is not great, but it's not terrible for the front of the kind of vehicle it is. But as I say, your commander and loader are going to get taken out pretty much instantly. 75mm gun, decent projectiles, decent velocity on them, decent penetration on them as well. Good little early tank destroyer. The STVRM40L. Upgraded version, beautiful communications wire on the back. Wait, no, that's a spare running wheel actually. Sorry, thinking British. Twin machine guns in the turret there for the commander to use. Very nice indeed. 8mm machine guns as well. So a little bit more penetration than most. Not not 50 caliber. Gun breech is weird. That does not look like it has any horizontal movement to it. Does it? We are going to take this out for a quick test drive because that looks like it only has a vertical system to it, not horizontal. That's kind of interesting. We're going to get a lot of weird, cool Swedish tanks. And I say, Swedish tanks are just weird in their design. Like, they have some really cool designs to them. So yeah, no horizontal movement to the actual gun breech there. So it's only vertical movement. So that's kind of cool and interesting. Shell, very good velocity, obviously. a very good reload. You know, for the tier, this thing's going to be pretty dangerous. Obviously, it's not going to be, you know, great against some things a little bit later on, but fairly decent armoured little vehicle. Driver is in a bit of a dangerous position because of where his head sits. That's going to be a bit of a weak spot. Armour-wise, let's have a little look at the armour on this thing, because, you know, it's got some armour. You can see 35mm, so some fairly tough armour. It's going to be decently armoured, so it's not terrible. And if we look at the x-ray, you can see that the transmission is in front of the driver there as well, so some protection, but not great. That gun is interesting though. Modification wise, same as before. You know, not a huge amount of penetration. 37mm, not great, but not bad. Fast little reload, fast little tank. The SAV 43 1944. This is a very late war vehicle. As you can see, it's a Panzer 38T. It's Czechoslovakian-based hull. This was a late vehicle, 75mm gun to it. Again, sort of in that tank destroyer vein. Good front armor to it. At this BR 2.0, it's going to be pretty deadly. Main thing for this is the gun. Very good gun, decent penetration values, decent speed to it, fairly mobile. Yeah, should be an interesting little vehicle. I do like the actual commander's hatch there. The fact that it's got its little flap there for extra armor for the periscope. It's just a nice little feature. Yeah, should be an interesting little tank. You're going to see some very... It's weird if you look through Swedish time periods, because a lot of their stuff came late war or after the war. Okay, so the STRV M41 S2. This looks familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Wonder what this could be. Yeah, it's a Panzer 38T. So yeah, that's literally it. That's what it is. It was given, Swedish took it for evaluation reasons, I believe. So yep, the logo, which is no, I've got to think actually, because I thought the logo was not Swedish off the top of my head. I thought it was Danish, but I might be wrong. Now this is actually a very cool vehicle. Look at this thing. It's a modern looking tank. At 2.7 as well, it's a fairly decent battle rating. The 37mm gun on it is not great, but the armor is. Look at the armor on this thing. This is, you know, this is getting up to fairly decent armor values at the BR. 2.7, you are going to struggle a little bit. The main thing is the gun. It does lack, but the 3.7cm, sorry, round here, which is an armor-piercing discarding sabot round. Yes, at 2.7. Yes. So yeah, this thing is going to be pretty much a monster. Again, only a vertical movement for the gun, so no horizontal movement for the gun. Interesting little slit there on the side. Looks like a viewing port for the commander, or pistol port maybe. Just there. Interesting. Interesting tank. I believe this was prototype. It wasn't actually developed past prototype stages though. The LV Alphabet M40, anti-air, 40mm gun, truck, awesome. Truck with a Bofors and a plough on the front. Look at that armoured plough, that's gorgeous. Spaced armour, awesome little truck, cool little vehicle. 3.0 obviously because of the 40mm on top. That gun is going to be pretty much deadly. Not great armor, not a great vehicle. It's going to be similar to the French truck with the 40mm on it. Kind of cool though. The SAVM 43 1946. Familiar, yes. Upgraded version with the 105mm gun. Again, low velocity, but you do get a heat shell, that has all the penetration in the universe. So the trouble is, though, it does have a relatively sluggish velocity. 425 is not the worst in the world, so it's going to be pretty strong. Yeah, basically a big ass gun. Look at that dampener system in it as well. Very good recoil reduction in it. Should be interesting. It's a 1946 vehicle fighting things from, into war. The SAV-20, we obviously know what that is. The PVK V2. This looks familiar. Again, one of those common things. It's a Marder, isn't it, really? However, the interesting thing is it's a Marder, but with a turret that moves. So it actually does have movement in the turret, so it's not a fixed location turret. It's a development of the Marder system. Obviously, a very good recoil dampening gun to it. Again, a cool little variation, cool little unique tank from Sweden. Something that's just very, very strange. Obviously, Marders were just whatever vehicles in Germany. There was, the Shah B2 was turned into a Marder as well at one stage. The STRV M42. Again, we have that strange mantler where there is no horizontal movement. Seems that Swedish didn't like horizontal movement in their guns. They only liked vertical movement or no movement at all, as we will come to later with the S-Tanks. Again, dual machine guns for the commander. Armor-wise, it's not the worst, but it's not going to really do much. Some good angling, but there are a lot of flat surfaces, so you are going to get a few people taken out in shots, but it's got the 75mm gun on board, which is going to really help this thing out. Very good penetration, very good muzzle velocity, and we get things that are very, very good at penetrating. Not the best still, the 82mm not great, but fairly decent. It should be an okay little tank, should be interesting, decent speed, things like that. Fairly agile little vehicle. Okie dokie, on to rank 3, where we have 4 tanks. The IKV 103. Guess what? It's an IKV. However, with an enclosed body, but a nice big gap here for machine gun bullets to go inside and ricochet and kill everybody inside with. However, this has a 105mm very, very good cannon. So if we look at the shells, we've got the Heat FS with a muzzle velocity of 418, and we also have the Heat FS round. Yeah, Heat FS. This is a 5.7 tank, by the way, so it's kind of like, what's the muzzle velocity on that Heat FS? 530 meters per second. Wait, did I read that right? Yeah, it's a big jump, right? There's a lot of vehicles in the Swedish tech tree, but if we look at the BRs, there's kind of an eclectic mix, and there's not much in that sort of 4.0 range. 3.0, then 4.7, 5.7. You're kind of just jumping there. The sort of mid-war period is where Sweden's going to suffer, and you can see that with this rank 3 sort of setup. The Delatorn, another cool little tank, 75mm. It's kind of a bit boxy, and it does have an open rear to it with a machine gun on the back. Again, no horizontal, but a big ass gun, some fairly good machine gun coverage, fairly decent little tank for speed. Armor wise, pretty much non-existent at this BR, 4.7 BR, but the gun is the main show here, and the gun has got some fairly decent ballistics to it, as you can see. Muzzle velocity of 925 meters per second for the APCBC round. That is bloody fast. As you can see, they didn't have room to to fully cover this. They did actually have a closing system, so it would keep crew kind of safe with this lovely, you know, what, 2mm armor door there screen, which does bugger all. But yeah, an interesting little tank, interesting little weird sort of tank slash tank destroyer hybrid of just strange Swedish stuff. Again, I'm pretty sure it was a prototype that didn't really go anywhere, but it was kind of cool. The L62 Anti-2. Look at this little thing. It's so cute. 40mm gun on board. What a surprise. 40mm autocannon on a Swedish tank. Who would have thought it? Little armor. As you can see, same running gear as many other tanks. Decent anti-air. Going to have decent fire rate. Crew are kind of stuck out a little bit. No armor. Fast little anti-air with just a kind of cool little turret. Look at the turret ring on this thing though, it's ridiculous. The turret ring size on this is just mental. Okie dokie, the PKV M4346, again a 1946 design. And as you can see, open top, machine gun on the top, some nice safety bars for people to hold on to, and a little bit of barring over the top to put your tarpaulin over to keep you nice and dry in the rain. Armour, not bad in all honesty, 70mm, but 5.0, that's going to do bugger all. The main show again is the gun, which has a very good muzzle velocity and a very good gun. Should be interesting. Interesting setup for the ready rack storage there, on top of the gun there. As you can see, not much recoil, obviously. I don't know how safe I would feel with having the shell tips sitting so close to the front there. You know, shells generally, when they hit, they go boom. Yeah, interesting design there. It's going to be a fast reload. That's going to be the thing on this thing, though. 13 second, which is actually not that fast, but yeah. Interesting little vehicle, just a weird little strange concept. On to rank 4, the USH405. Now we're starting to get into some of the stranger things in the universe. So, yes, based off the Daimler chassis, basically. It's a Daimler chassis that had pretty much everything on it and still has everything on it. A little armoured car. 10mm thickness frontal armor, really no armor at all. No armor is best armor. If we look inside, 2-man crew, little fast, nippy little armored car, tiny little engine in it, 128 horsepower, but it doesn't need to be that strong. The main thing are these guns, which have no reload capability. Okay, but they have a magazine-fed rocket system. 81mm Acrylion rockets, basically Hellfires with heat heat sort of characteristics and an HE, which is going to be no use whatsoever. Yeah, the fire rate of this thing is ridiculous. It's just a weird little Swedish weird thing, which is what we love about Sweden, because they made some very weird, interesting things back in the day. The STVR81. What's this? Yeah, we know what this is. So, yeah, obviously it's the Swedish adaptation of the Centurion. I always get mixed up with Centurion, Chieftain, and yeah, they always mix me up. But yeah, we know what tank this is. Yeah, it's, you know, it's not a bad tank. It's not the best tank, not a bad tank. Main thing that struggles with it is, of course, the fact that you lack any HE filler in your shells. The LVKV42, sorry, I had to try that again a couple of times. This looks familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, basically the AMX 13, I think it is. Sort of similar, basically similar turret sort of system to it. Slightly different chassis though. But yeah, this thing's going to be pretty fun, very fast. Driver is very much alone in the front, lots of crew in the back, lots of rounds. Very fast firing gun, very good penetration on the rounds as well. You're going to be able to take out things like Panthers and the rest with this. 4.7, not bad. Obviously, the biggest problem is there's not much else around 4.7 that you're going to be able to take out with it. So, the PVKVM43 1963. Again, little tiny tank destroyer. Cool little tank. Armor, again, not going to really do much at 6.3 in all honesty. The main weapon, the main show is the gun, of course. Not much of an improvement over prior, but you do get the armor piercing discarding sabot rounds, which are going to be pretty decent. Pretty strong little gun, pretty strong little tank destroyer, but the trouble is it's quite tall, it's quite bulky, so it's going to get taken out pretty quickly. At 6.3 as well, it's going to struggle a bit too. Okie dokie, on to rank 5. So, of course, we've got the fantastic S-Tanks in this one. So, we've got the we'll start off, though, with the IKV-91, 7.7. And this is where we start getting some of the cool little tanks. The IKV is kind of like a pike-nosed PT-76 without the flying. Also, these amazing chrome tracks, which I'm pretty sure are just a graphics bug, but oh, that's kind of cool. I would love to see it if they actually do come out like that. Basically, this was a small little light tank design. 90mm Bofors on front, no armor, of course. Relatively small crew. Weird thing is the way they actually mounted the engine for this one, because they wanted to keep it as short as possible. So as you can see, it's a very short, short tank. The way they mounted the engine was sort of horizontally. So as you can see, the engine is mounted like this, which creates a bit of a problem for the drivetrain, because obviously you've got to make this direction go into this direction, so you need a ball joint on it, and then you need it to go into the drivetrain. Kind of just a really weird little design. Again, one of those Swedish things. I love Sweden, they have some very cool things. Very fast little tank though. Heat FS, of course, 400mm of penetration, good little quick tank. Speedy boy, although not technically a light tank though, so no spotting mechanics or anything like that, so that's weird. That should really have a light tank status. Then again, things are subject to change. The STVR101. Oh look. So yeah, you know, obviously we know what this is. Again, nothing too much interesting, just an enhanced version of the Chieftain, not Chieftain, the Centurion. Yeah, really. The STRV-103A. Yes, our first S-Tank, proper S-Tank. So, one of the earlier versions. Now, this does have a little bit of difference because it has these weird little armor divots here. And these are actually designed for armor piercing discarding sabot and armor piercing fin stabilized discarding sabot shots, so darts basically. And it's designed to take the force. So if we go to protection analysts and shoot it with a an APSDS shell, it's designed to basically make it, we can't actually see there, to basically dissipate the force of it. So it's a really cool little design, and it's one of those weird little Swedish things that they just do. Of course, with this one you have the twin machine guns on the chassis. So if you actually look here, you've got the little machine guns there. Of course, 3 crew members. You've got your driver, gunner, driver. Really just everybody drives. Everybody has the same bits. The gas turbine engines, I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah, it's an S-Tank. It's cool, it's fun, it's unique, and it's Swedish. Obviously very good. It's built for defense, not for offense. The VEAK-40. This looks familiar. Yeah, so again, radar operated, anti-aircraft 8.0, twin bofers, high explosive fragmentation tracers, blah blah blah. Little anti-air, you know, it's, yeah, what more can you say? It's just an anti-air with radar capability. The UDES 33, our first UDES. Yes. Yep. You're seeing that. So, yes, similar design to many of the other tank destroyers. I do love this tripod at the back, though, that's designed to basically take this this rocket system, so you can actually dismount it and have it on the ground. So you can sort of place it somewhere and then drive the vehicle back, so you've actually got an opportunity for it. Armor, terrible. Yeah, terrible. X-ray. This guy is, you know, very brave, in all honesty. Big thing, though, is the missile. It's the RB-55 anti-tank missile. Fairly decent semi-automatic guidance. 3-kilometer range. Decent anti-tank, useful weapon, gun. Yeah. Yeah. What more can you say? Okay, on to, where are we? 3, 4, 5, 6. On to rank 6. The STRF-90C. Another little light tank with a 40mm autocannon in it. This kind of reminds me of the Crusader, in all honesty. It's like a modernized Crusader. Kind of looks like that to me. Armor is actually not terrible because of the angled armor. It's got this nice little front section here, which is actually sort of like a sort of almost spaced in its way. It's sort of designed to take the impact and then take it into this section and protect the driver and all that usual things. Typical Swedish design, protect everybody on board, which is always nice and very cool. The 40mm gun on board is very, very neat, though. It's belt-fed system, very, very fast reload rate, 300 shots per minute. Should be a light tank. Yes, it's not, of course, because why would we have that? APFSDS in it, though. 143mm penetration and 168mm penetration with the top tier. Also, you have the anti-air variant in there too. So, very good little IFV, basically. If you look, you've actually got room for people in the back to take a seat. Sort of infantry fighting vehicle, typical infantry fighting vehicle. Very, very good, very cool little vehicle, very, very handy. Next up, the STRV-103C 8.3. As you can see, it's a very eclectic mix of BRs. One of the first 10.0 is actually not at rank 7, it's at rank 6. So, you know, weird stuff. Anyway, S-Tank with cage armor on the front, designed to stop, obviously, you know, heat FS and stuff like that. You can see this is a lot busier on top as well. 105mm gun, usual thing, very good armor protection. If you actually look at the shells, you've got the arm piston fin stabilized Organic Sabo with a lot of penetration to it. Very, very good gun. Yeah, very, very cool. And you've also got the side oblique armor as well. So yeah, lots of protection on this thing, designed to protect its crew, to be used at a to be used on hilltops and things like that, to just really, you know, just crest the top of the hill and do that kind of thing. It's not a offensive tank, it's a defensive tank as usual, but cool to have it. The LVKV-90C. So yes, this looks familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, so this is basically the anti-air variant of that IFV, with a honking great radar dish on the, well, radar system on the top, guidance system. So, main difference to this thing, as it has, armor piercing stabilized, and of course, the high explosive self-destroying shell, but it has that huge radar system on top as well. Guidance system should be interesting. Also, it has a much higher. I'm pretty sure the gun has a higher elevation to it as well than the standard version. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's just kind of one of those weird little cool tanks. Next up, we have the final tank in the fourth lineup, the PVRBV 551. Nice little bus. Armor, yeah, non-existent. Anti-tank gun, sorry, anti-tank missile launcher, yep. The RB-55, yep. So yeah, TOW2, yep. What, not much else you can say about it, really, is there? One thing that I do find weird is the missile variant of the Centurion is not in there. So the STVR 81 is still in the British tech tree, but it's not in the Swedish tech tree as a normal tank. We did see with a lot of tanks that the actually, does this get the modification? No, it doesn't. We did see that a lot of versions got sort of put into other tech trees. So we've got the STVR 81, but it doesn't have the capability to have the anti-tank missiles on it, which is just a really weird little weird thing. Anyway, premium is the CV9015TML glass cannon, 105mm gun, cockerel turret. Yeah. Sorry, I had to think for myself. So you got all of the cool little perks, things like that. Infantry fighting vehicle, very similar to what we've seen before. Armor, nothing. Crew protection, decent. Modifications. This is the thing. Full night vision, thermal, blah blah blah. DM23. So this thing is going to be a very strong little light tank. Again, it's a light tank without any light tank options to it, which is just strange. I'm hoping that's just a dev server thing. The STRV121 looks familiar. Obviously, it's the Swedish version, Swedish upgrade variant of the Leo, isn't it? I'm pretty sure off the top of my head. 120mm Rheinmetall Borsig, DM23, laser rangefinder. Yeah, it's it's not a full. I can't remember if